This is a public meeting of the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals for October 28, 2013. Tonight, we're going to entertain under new business, ZB 2013-33. The applicant is Kazanjian Enterprises. Petition's a special permit. The property is located at 150 Wood Street, and the petition is to renovate an existing home and construct 2 new buildings, one of which shall contain a drive-through for the proposed banking establishment pursuant to Article 12.4G2 of the zoning ordinance. We've received a communication from Kazanjian Enterprises. I'll read it into the record. Writing this letter to respectfully request a continuance on our special permit request for 150 Wood Street for a drive-through. The reason for the request is that there has been a change to the existing plans, and we will not have the new plan completed in time for the meeting. Thank you for consideration in this matter. If you have any questions regarding this matter, please contact us at your earliest convenience. And that's signed by Alan Kazanjian, President. So, looking at the calendar, I would make a recommendation, ask for a continuance to the December 9th, 2013 meeting. Could I have a second?
Second it.
Have a roll call?
Mr. Hearn.
Approve or continue.
Mr. Bailey.
Continue December 9th.
Mr. Belanger.
Continue to December 9th.
Ms. Carino.
Continue to December 9th.
Mr. McCarthy.
Continue to December 9th.
Okay, so that matter will be continued to December 9th, 2013. Next order of business is under other business, and this is for the minutes for approval from September 23rd, 2013. Do we have any comments or changes? Hearing none, could I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to continue, approve the minutes for September the 23rd, 2013.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a roll call?
Mr. Hearn.
Approve.
Mr. Bailey.
Approved.
Mr. Belanger.
Approve.
Ms. Carino.
Abstain. I don't believe I was at that meeting.
Mr. McCarthy.
Approve?
Okay, next item we'll address is still under other business. This will be a update on the sign codes. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been talked about for some time, updating the sign ordinance. There's been, I think, an effort even a few years ago that started, but then kind of halted due to other priorities for the city. So now it's kicking off again. There was a good amount of talk during the master plan update about updating the sign code, particularly from a number of business owners in the city. There's been some problems identified from business owners as new applications come in. I think this board is pretty familiar with some of the limitations of the current code. It hasn't been touched since around 1980, and it's in some need of catching up with the times. Right now, it's pretty specific in how it delineates a number of sign types. With advances in technology, it makes it difficult to categorize some of the new signs that are out there. And there are a number of petitions that come in front of this board as a result of that. As I mentioned, there was the master plan update, Sustainable Lowell 2025. There was an action item in that identified to address the sign code and the issues that arise with that. It mentioned there's some trouble for some startup businesses, for new businesses that they're looking to get going, and then all of a sudden they get held up looking to put some signage up for their new business, and then all of a sudden they're held up for 2 months, and it can conflict with financing. So the idea is that look to have something that's a little more streamlined, a little more straightforward. That was something that was talked about during that update. It's also noted in the sign code there's really not a lot of distinction between different zoning districts. Right now, you would be reviewing the same type of signage for something in regional retail, for instance, and the neighborhood business, where in some zoning districts like the neighborhood business, traditional mixed use, you're gonna have a lot more interaction with adjacent residents or even residential properties within the district versus something like the regional retail, which is a lot more auto-oriented. So something that has been kicked around as kind of an idea is to look at it more holistically. Look at signage from a perspective of different zoning districts, the character of the neighborhoods, particularly as different properties interact with one another when you're adjacent to a residential district, and also the building typology. So if you have a mixed-use building versus you have a one-story commercial strip, signage would probably look a lot different depending on what your building type is. So again, it would be to have it a little more streamlined for new businesses, try to make it a little bit easier for those starting up, and to make it easier for staff on enforcement as particularly as new signs do get developed. The idea would be that maybe not looking at listing out every single sign type that we can think of, because who knows, in 5-10 years, there could be additional new sign types that we then have the same issue trying to come up with that. So, like I said, a little bit more of a holistic approach, try to make it a little more of a comprehensive update that's sustainable. In terms of a timeline, looking to do an existing conditions analysis. City staff would go out to a number of commercial districts, gather an inventory of different signs and different properties. Look to have that around the beginning of December, have that done. Develop purpose, objectives, regulations, the permitting process. Right now, even in the ordinance, there's no stated purpose for why there are regulations regarding signs. So that would be something we would definitely want to clarify. Again, line up those objectives with the purpose statement of having regulations for signage. Have that, develop that from December to February, and have a draft ready by March to get that to different boards in the city, city council, zoning board, planning board, gather feedback, and then have a final draft towards the end of summer, end of the fiscal year. So just wanted to give a brief synopsis to the board, gather some initial feedback and some things that you would like us to look at as we go through the process.
I got one question.
Sure.
Does a business, I know you talked about objectives and regulations, and if you open up a brand-new business, do you have to have a sign in your window, on the building? Is there a regulation that says you have to have a sign if you've been granted a permit to conduct a business, the city of Lowell?
No, not currently. I mean, you could operate a business without a sign saying that
Right.
your business is there, but typically for any business, they're looking to have their name out there. So there are regulations for window signage right now, as well as
Right.
signs on the building. A lot of times where we see issues come up is when they're looking to get their certificate of occupancy, and then they realize they need to get a building permit for their sign to go up, and at that point, they want some illuminated signage, or the signage is too large, and then they realize they have to go through a special permit process. Or there was some condition from the past on the sign if they were going in for an old business, where there was a condition that said any new sign has to come back in front of this board. So it's created some hurdles.
So the signage would be part of, I guess, just thinking out loud, if you were going to, it's almost like having a front end, I'll call it a front end process of,
Right.
I want to start a business in Lowell. Here's all the key criteria I need to meet
Mm-hmm.
so I can get up and running, that everything's been covered, you know, like
Correct.
a full menu of requirements instead of piecemealing it.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Joey, I got a few concerns and questions on this. This is something we've been waiting for. I've been on this board for 10 years, and we've been waiting a long time. But it's good, you know, can't dwell on the past. Let's look forward. But, you know, obviously this has not been touched since 1980, okay? I see a lot of problems with this current ordinance. Number one, I find it very business unfriendly, if you will. And not chastising you, I'm saying that this was already in place long before you and I even got here. in many different ways, okay? We're seeing small businesses come in here, having to pull permits, hire engineers, just to reface current existing signs. I don't agree with that. You know, that's something I think you should be able to handle in-house. I know LED has become a concern with the other board members, and I understand what they're trying to accomplish, but that can be very, very costly. I know it pays in the long run, but for a startup business, I think it's a unnecessary financial burden on them. And I don't even know if it's lawful. Please research to see if it's even lawful. We can force a business to use LED. I'd like to request it. I'd love to see it, but I'm not going to sit here and put that kind of financial burden, nor do I think we even have the jurisdiction to do that. So I'd like you to look at that, because we've been implying, make it a condition to use LED. And I don't know if it's within our scope of this board's authority to do so. So please research that. I'd like to see the sign ordinance in downtown. This is why we're having problems. Many visitors and who come to the city looking for their respective businesses cannot find it because the signage is so undersized, because of regulations. I'm hearing historic board. I hear all sorts of input that we won't have the national parks if we let them, if we have bigger signage. There should be better signage for businesses in the downtown. And I don't buy the fact that we're going to lose money if we increase sizes. I don't buy that. We have people that are at a disadvantage here who invested their lives in these businesses downtown, and they need help, quite frankly. So I'd like that looked at. Now, the sign ordinance, now we just approved the Jeep dealership on Route 38. What I find troubling is we have the same criteria for a business on Route 38, which has 2 lanes, major thoroughfare, 2 lanes each way, and the same guidelines are set for a small residential neighborhood with a variety, say a variety store or hair salon wants to open up.
Right.
Now, I don't want flashing billboards in residential neighborhoods. It's not my goal. But a commercial location, such as, that's just one example, should be, able to vitalize whatever we're able to give them, quite frankly. I don't know what that answer is, but please research neighboring towns and cities around the Commonwealth to see what they allow. But that was a struggle. I mean, that sign must have cost them $10,000, several thousand just in permitting fees. Just to, that's, in this economy, we need to be more business friendly. So I think that needs to be looked at. There should be a major differential from a commercial neighborhood to a residential neighborhood. We need to be as helpful as we can to these businesses. And these are just a few things that come to mind. But again, what I really want to stress is that, an existing signage, why they're coming in here just to reface the plate, I don't understand why that's the case, why they're placed with that kind of financial burden to do this. And when I think you can handle this in-house, quite frankly, I think you do a good job of it. Not that I don't mind doing my job, that's not the case. But, these small businesses are going through too many hurdles with these guidelines to, to give themselves the visibility they need. And that doesn't bode well for a new business, existing or a new business looking to relocate here in the city. I don't want to become a Las Vegas Strip. That's not my goal here. But let's find a happy medium here. Let's help businesses and protect neighborhoods at the same time and research and find that fine line. So I look forward to this discussion in the coming months, and I know we'll reach a compromise soon. Thank you very much.
Any other comments?
3, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I look forward to the sign ordinance addressing more aesthetic issues. There's a lot of signage being done in storefronts with visual images in front of plate glass windows, which is backlit, and I don't think that's addressed. And that, to me, is an extension of signage. And also, I think that the brightness level of the illumination of the signage itself should be addressed. A lot of the backlit signs that are lit appropriately don't have a negative effect versus the old-fashioned neon that used to be quite glaring. So if we could have some kind of measure as to the appropriate illumination levels, and that could go for areas that have a four-lane road versus a two-lane road. You know, illumination levels could be adjusted. But I really think that internally illuminated signs are becoming a requirement for businesses in most areas. Historic downtown might be an exception, but in most areas, I think internally illuminated signs is becoming a requirement. And then the last one is just appropriate height of letters. I think certain retail establishments have sign bands that if you don't have the right size sign on the sign band, it just kind of doesn't work. And so I think that we need to start addressing the appropriate sign band for the square footage for the retail establishment in a more holistic kind of approach as well. So those are my only comments, but aesthetics is pretty much where I think we really want to key in on here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
Does that wrap up your
That
presentation?
wraps it up, and it was good to get some feedback directly from the board.
Yeah, well, I guess Corey and I have been around here the longest, and I know we've kind of battled with the signage thing for a while, so I guess each of the board members would probably like to see, you know, a final package put together that hopefully meets all the requisites and requirements and hopefully can meet all the needs. So appreciate the update, Joe, and as Corey said, I guess we'll be looking forward to the final package sometime next year. All right, any other comments or questions?
Yeah, one more. Joe, will there be any public discussions, hearings, or forums on this at all? Is this going to be done strictly in-house by DPD?
It'll be mostly in-house. I think there'll be some public discussion once there's a draft. There'll probably be a draft put out there for public comment. Most of the work will be done in-house.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, based on feedback that we received from the master plan update.
And I guess the last thing would be date of our next meeting, Joe?
It's November 14th, due to the holiday on that Monday, so it'll be a Thursday night meeting.
Yeah, that will be on a Thursday, right?
Yep. Okay, so our next meeting is November 14th. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
So moved.
November 11th, we gotta switch that.